Urtet, Remnant of Memnarch. Wow, being Scottish and trying to say that really doesn't help. So this is a deck that I seen the card and immediately thought I need to build that. There was no real kind of theory behind the deck. It was literally just let's throw as many Mir into that deck as possible and let's build it and see where it goes. And that's kind of what it's become. You'll see that as we go through. I think it's a good foundation for the deck. Definitely ways to tweak it. Without further ado, let's jump into what Urtet does and then let's jump into the deck. So he's a legendary artifact creature. Mur is colourless, but he's got Wooberg in his reminder text, not in any parentheses or anything like that. So it does mean that he is 5 colours. When you cast a Mur spell, create a 1/1 colourless Mur artifact creature token. At the beginning of combat on your turn, untap each Mur you control. And then for Wooberg and tap, you can put 3/1/1 counters on each Mur you control, activate only during your turn. So the whole idea of the deck is get loads of Mur out. You can tap them for mana because you've got mana dorks and stuff in here. You pay the Wooberg, you put loads of counters on them, and you basically start smashing face, make them indestructible. Look, Creative Behemoth and stuff isn't in this deck. Things that would make it much better, much more finely tuned. But again, this is a fun deck. It's a nice foundation if you're wanting to build a hardcore Urtet deck. I should just say before we get in that some of the lands are missing in action because they're in other decks, so there will be a few proxies in the land base. So, first one, Mur Servitor. 1 colourless. At the beginning of your upkeep, if Mur Servitor is in play, each player returns all cards named Mur Servitor from his or her graveyard to play. Obviously, we're a singleton format, so that doesn't matter. Mur Moon Vessel, another 1-drop. When Mur Moon Vessel is put into the graveyard from play, add a colourless to your mana pool. Leaden Mur, tap to add black. Mur Convert, artifact creature for Phyrexian Mur. It's a 2-drop, it's toxic 1, pay 2 life, add 1 mana of any colour. The good thing with that is you can tap it in main phase 1, add 1 mana any colour. You'll then untap it with Urtet's ability, and you can then crash in for the damage. You've got Mur Retriever, a 2-drop. When Mur Retriever is put into a graveyard from play, return another target artifact creature from your graveyard to hand. I'll usually keep this in hand till late game, and I'll use it to bring something that I want back. Omega Mur, just 1/2 Mur. It costs 2. Copper Mur, add green. Gold Mur, add white. Core Tapper, tap to put a charge counter on target artifact and sacrifice Core Tapper. Put 2 charge counters on target artifact. I don't think there's anything else in the deck that actually uses this. The charge counters. Perilous Mur, when it's put into the graveyard from the battlefield, it deals 2 damage to target creature or player. Silver Mur, add blue. Iron Mur, add red. Hover Mur, flying vigilance 1/2. Mursaire, when it's put into the graveyard from the battlefield, put a 1/1 colourless Mur artifact creature token onto the battlefield. Ickerclaw Mur, it's got Infect, and when it becomes blocked, it gains +2/+2 until end of turn. Zenithal Chronicle, this isn't a Mur. When a player casts their first multicoloured spell each turn, each other player draws a card. Chances are you're going to be playing multicoloured decks, so you get a little bit of card draw off this, but also it doesn't get hated off the board because it's also helping other people as well. Chief Engineer, artifact spells you cast have Convoke. Now, it means that if I start tapping colourless creatures, it means I can cast more colourless creatures, and it's quite a nice cascading effect. Sun Cleanser. When it enters the battlefield, choose 1, remove all counters from target creature, and it can't have counters put on it as long as Sun Cleanser remains on the battlefield. It was a nice way of getting around things like indestructible counters on creatures and stuff, or target opponent loses all counters. That player can't get counters for as long as Sun Cleanser remains on the battlefield. The secondary function's a bit of a kingmaker where you're kind of taking off poison counters off people and stuff like that. But it does come in handy. It does have a place in our pod. Mur Custodian, when there's a battlefield, scry 2, then each opponent may scry 1. Darksteel Mur, so this itself is indestructible. Scrap Trawler, when it When scrap draw, another artifact you control is put into a graveyard from the battlefield. Return to your hand target artifact in your graveyard with lesser converted mana cost. It's nice just to start recycling some of those cards that you want back. Palladiumer, add 2 colourless to your mana pool. Alloymer, this is probably some of my favourite art in Magic. I know it's a bit of a sidetrack, but this is the tap, add 1 mana of any colour to your mana pool. But I've seen this on a playmat. It's beautiful. The foil version of this card is also beautiful. It is just, the art's just incredible on this card. Chief of the Foundry, other artifacts you control get +1/+1. Sun Touchbar, it's got Sunburst. So if I use a Forest Island in a Plains, it comes in with 3/1/1 counters on it. Lodestone Mir, trample, and I can tap an untapped artifact I control and it gets +1/+1 till end of turn. So if I've got 6 Mir out, and it's first main phase, I tap all 6 of them. I can actually tap itself if it's untapped as well, so you can get 7 of them. Go to combat, you untap them all, you tap the other 6. You can see how it gets out of hand quite quickly. It also doesn't specify it must be artifact creatures or non-token artifacts. And with this deck, you start to get quite a lot of artifacts on the board, and it's quite a nice way just to kind of overrun some people. But also, it's a good defensive thing, so you can hold that up with some untapped creatures, and you can declare the block, see if they're going to do any shenanigans, and then you can tap in response to that. Mer Quadrupod, switch Mer Quadrupod's power and toughness. It's a 1/4 for 3 mana. It becomes a 4/1. Mer Kinsmith, when it enters the battlefield, you may search the library for a Mer card, reveal it, and put it in your hand, then shuffle. If I've got this in hand and somebody chaos swaps my Urtet, I'll tend to tuck it rather than throw it back to the command zone, and then I can use that to put it back into my hand, defeating the commander attacks on that one. Stuff it all. I just love this card. Artifact Creature Construct. As it enters the battlefield, choose a player. It's indestructible. Whenever it's dealt damage, it deals that much damage to the chosen player, especially in heads up. Throw it down, name the other person, and you just start blocking their biggest creature. It becomes really infuriating for some players. Etched Monstrosity. It enters the battlefield with 5 -1/-1 counters on it, and for Wooberg you can remove it and make it a 10/10. I think I picked this up when I was in Utrecht for Modern Masters release. Really nice artwork on it. Child of Alara, it was one of my favourite commanders at one point. Board Wipe Tribal. I'm rebuilding Board Wipe Tribal. Super fun. That and Land Destruction will always be stuff you're seeing on the channel at some point. This is, I think it's from the Volks Annihilation art. When it dies, destroy all non-land permanents and they can't be regenerated. I'm not one of these ones who doesn't like land destruction or board wipes and stuff, so this is in there for that. It's like a panic button, throw it on the board. It's an alternate kind of board wipe, and then I just start swinging with it and forcing people to either block it and wipe the board or let it through for 6 damage, especially if I've got, I think it's Darksteel Forge, gives everything, all artifacts indestructible. You just start throwing it out there. Kenrith, the Returned King. He's just in there because I pulled the card and I like the card. It's like a kind of toolbox. I can gain 5 life. I can put a 1/1 on it. All my creatures gain trample and haste if I had a lot of tokens come in this turn. These sorts of things, it's just a nice card to have. And again, you could probably take it out and make the deck more focused, but I just wanted to have it in there. Wurmcoil Engine. This is like a nostalgia card for me again. Death Touch Lifelink, and when it dies, you put a 3/3 colourless worm artifact creature token with Death Touch and a 3/3 artifact creature token with Lifelink onto the battlefield. So it basically splits in half. This was one of those kind of like, when I first got into Magic and I'd seen the card, I was like, oh yeah, 6 for a 6/6 Death Touch Lifelink, I need that. And it's always just been one of those cards that I've just enjoyed having. Comsey Golem, sack it, add Wooberg, so late game you're taking 5 mana off your cost to cast Urtet, but you've also got the Door to Nothingness and some other things where it's really handy to have specifically Wooberg and not 5 mana. Scotland Doom Engine can't be blocked by creatures with power 2 or less, and when it dies it deals 6 damage to target opponent. I've got a few white weenie decks. I've got a few other decks where you've got kind of like 1 and 2 power or that sort of thing, wall decks. So it's a nice creature to have. It's an artifact. It can get indestructible, and it also does that 6 damage to target opponent, which is nice to kind of threaten that to the face. Mud Enforcer, affinity for artifacts. If I've got 7 artifacts on the board, this spell is essentially free. Gate Colossus. I love this card. So it costs 1 less for each gate I control. I don't own any gates. Can't be blocked by creatures with power 2 or less. And when a gate enters under the battlefield, on the battlefield under your control, I can return it from the graveyard to the top of the library. I just love that. 8 for an 8/8. It's an artifact. It can get indestructible. It's awesome. I love the art as well. I think that was one of the kind of things that drew me to it, was the art. And then Void Winnower. So it's a 9-drop. Opponents can't cast spells with even mana costs, and your opponents can't block creatures with even mana costs. So it's an 11/9 for 9 as well. Definitely pushes the power of the deck up a little bit, but you have to remember it's just one of 99 cards. So yeah, that's the creature base. As you can see, definitely aiming for more Murs, Mears, whatever you want to call them. The actual artifact section, I've got Paradise Mental. It's a 0-drop, and for 1 I can equip it to a creature, and equipped creature has tap, add 1 mana of any colour to your mana pool. It's actually there just as another way to get another artifact onto the board. Lodging Spellbomb, 1-drop. For 1 the tap, sack it, put a 1/1 colourless artifact creature token onto the battlefield, and when it's put into the graveyard, I can pay white and I can draw a card. Signet, 2-drop, add 1 mana of any colour in your commander's colour identity. He is Wooberg colour identity. Cranial Plating, if equipped creature gets +1/+0 for each artifact, again you're going to end up with a lot of artifacts here. For double black, I can attach it to a target creature I control, or pay 1 to equip it. So equip is sorcery speed only. I need to double check, but I'm pretty sure paying the double black and I can attach it as instant speed. I've never used it as such. I'll need to double check that. And there'll be a thing here that tells you yes or no. Prophetic Prism. When there's a battlefield, I draw a card. So 2-drop replaces itself, and I can pay 1 to add 1 mana of any colour to my mana pool. It's just a little bit of mana fixing. You are a 5-colour deck after all. Gen Chamber artifact. When a non-token creature comes into play, if it's untapped, that creature's controller puts a 1/1 artifact creature token into play. So you imagine if you've got Urtet out as well. So whenever I cast a Mur spell, I create a 1/1 colourless artifact creature token, and then with Gen Chamber, I get another one. If you really want to up the power of this deck, you can throw in like doubling season and those sorts of token doublers as well. But again, they've not went that route. Ozolith, legendary artifact. If 1 or more 1/1 counters are put on artifact creature I control, put that many +1. So it turns Urtet into putting 4 on. For 1 the green and tap, I can put a 1/1 counter on target artifact or creature. Activate only as a sorcery. That actually means put 2 on. Commander Sphere, 3-drop, add 1 mana. Add to your mana pool 1 mana of any colour in your commander's colour identity. Again, Wooberg. But most importantly, late game, you can sack it to draw a card. Nib's Disc, 4-drop, enters a battlefield, tap, pay 1 and I tap it. I destroy all artifacts, creatures and enchantments. It can be the panic button. It can be nice to just hold over people on the board. So what I'll do is I'll generally just sit it out on the board and I'll set a wee land underneath it, just to indicate that it's always there ready to go. A lot of EDH is actually playing the person, not just playing the decks and stuff like that. So wee things like that I tend to find are quite helpful. But when you've got artifacts being indestructible, destroying all artifacts, creatures and enchantments, you don't really care. And then you can hopefully swing for the win. Unwinding Clock, you can untap all artifacts you control during each other player's upkeep step. So you cannot activate Urtet every turn. His ability is only during your turn. But there is certain things in the deck that you will have seen that you can do on each player's turn. So it's quite handy to have. Gaia Poor Orrery. God, but they really need to make Magic more Scottish friendly. Each player may play additional land on each of his or her turns, handy if you have a 5-colour deck. And at the beginning of each player's upkeep, if that player has no cards in hand, that player draws 3 cards. Nice way to replenish your hand should you need it. Keranos, God of Storms, this is another one of those cards I just love. So reveal the first card you draw each turn. If it's a land card, I draw another card, and if it's a non-land card, it deals 3 damage to target creature or player. If you get this out on turn 5, you're just starting to kind of ping away people with 3 damage, or if there's problem creatures. If somebody's got a mana dork and it's their only source of a certain colour, you can wipe it out, you can put them back. Do it to Nothingness enters tapped, and for Progenitus mana, sack it, do it to nothing, sack, do it to Nothingness, target player loses the game. But you can return this later on with some cards. But if you're heads up Magic and you've got that on the board and you've got the mana out, especially with things like the Golem you can sack for Wooberg, and you've also got Timeless Lotus that you get Wooberg. You might think that's hard to get to, but it's really not in this deck. Timeless Lotus enters tapped, tap it to add Wooberg, and then you get Darksteel Forge. Artifacts you control have indestructible. So that's that's where you want to get to. If I was going to power this up, I definitely have some ability to fetch cards, maybe a few tutors and stuff, just so that I can get them. So I've got Tezzeret the Seeker, he's the only Planeswalker, so for 1/1 untap 2 target artifacts, -X, search the library for an artifact card with converted mana cost X or less and put it onto the battlefield. People tend to forget that you can obviously search for your Darksteel Forge and stuff like that, so you can get in 9 quite easily. It's 5 activations. What I tend to do is try and remain quite innocuous with them, and I'll untap blockers. I won't untap mana rocks and stuff like that. I'll untap blockers just to kind of make sure that it goes unnoticed. And then for -5, artifacts you control become artifact creatures with base power and toughness 5/5 until the end of the turn. It's not really worth it in this deck. One of the things you probably will notice is my continual disdain for Sol Ring, and you'll notice that this deck doesn't run a Sol Ring. Again, something you could add in, especially with the fact that it creates 2, you can get your creatures out a bit quicker. Onto the enchantment orders, or enchantments in general, sorry. We've got Animate Dead. So for 1 the black, I can enchant a creature in the graveyard and it returns to the battlefield under my control, except it gets -1/-0. So it's good if a creature's got a good ETB ability. Folk Hero. Commander creatures you own have, when you cast a spell that shares a creature type with this creature, draw a card. So only triggers once each turn, but the amount of mirrors in the deck, it was really a no-brainer to throw this in there. Gift of Paradise, enchant a land when it enters the battlefield, again 3 life, and the enchanted land has tap, add 2 mana of any 1 colour you can produce. A little bit of ramp in the deck. And then Thopter Spy Network, at the beginning of your upkeep, if you control an artifact, put a 1/1 colour Thopter artifact creature with flying on the battlefield, you're always going to be controlling an artifact. And whenever one of the artifact creatures you control deals damage to a player, draw a card. Good amount of card draw. Really, really nice. So, sorceries and instants. The only sorcery in the deck is Wrath of God. That's your, oh no, everything's going wrong, let's reset. In 3 instants, I've got Path. So Path to Exile is remove target creature from the game, which is basically exile target creature. And its controller may search the library for a basic land card, put it on the battlefield tap, then shuffle his or her library. I've pathed my own creatures before just to get a land if I'm short of land and it's in my opening hand. Not how you're meant to do it, but it does come in handy. Impulse, this is something that I'll look for in my opening hand. Look at the top 4 cards in my library, put one of them into your hand and the rest in the bottom of your library in any order. It's nice to just kind of if you're maybe keeping a 2-land hand, you can dig for that 3rd land to get you going. And Mortify, destroy target creature with enchantment. I know there's better kill spells out there, Exile, etc. But this gives me the option of doing creature or enchantment rather than just creature, and there's not a lot of enchantment kill in my pod. So it's one of those ones where it's just handy to have kicking about. The lands, I've kind of separated these up. I've got a few where they're proxied because they're in other decks at the moment. So the first one is the Shire. Enters the battlefield tapped unless you control a legendary creature. Add green. 1 the green, tap it. Tap an untapped creature you control to create a food token. It's the only real source of life gain in the deck. And it's only really in here because I love the art, and it's the Shire from Lord of the Rings, and I'm a huge Lord of the Rings fan, as you can see. So it had to get in the deck. Command Tower, no-brainer. Cavern, another no-brainer. It's a more tribal deck, so had to be in there. And then I've got an island, a mountain, a plains. So again, Lord of the Rings full arts. And then I've got a proxy here of my Urborg. I don't actually remember what deck Urborg's in, but Urborg to my Yawgmoth, really handy to get that black mana. I've got my I think these all fetches. So I've got Arid Mesa, Flooded Strand, Bloodstained Mire, Misty Rainforest, Scalding Tarn, Marsh Flats, Verdant Catacombs, Polluted Delta, Wooded Foothills, and Windswept Heath. So that should be 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's all 10 of the fetches. Shock-wise, I've got Steam Vents, Watery Grave, Breeding Pool, Overgrown Tomb, Blood Crypt, Temple Garden, Godless Shrine, Hallowed Fountain, Stomping Ground, and Sacred Foundry. So I've got all 10 of the Shocklands. And then on the Triland front, I've got Zagoth Triome, Rugrin Triome, Rafine's Tower, Jetmir's Garden, Endatha Triome, Ketria Triome, Ziatora's Proving Ground, Xander's Lounge, Savvy Triome, and Sparra's Headquarters. So very, very, very greedy when it comes to the mana base. You will cry if you see a Blood Moon coming down. Now, it's not going to shut the deck down that much if you're a true 5-colour deck where all your creatures wear 5 colours or multiple colours, because you can just tap them all as mountains, the red into the colourless, and get the creatures down. But it is going to really hurt you because there is going to be certain spells in here that you're not going to be able to cast. So that was just a quick and dirty look over my Urtet Remnant of Memnarch. That's 10 points for me. Deck. If there's any kind of deck breakdowns that you'd like to see in the future, let me know. One of the things that you will be seeing in the future at some point is Kazarek the Eye Tyrant, purely because I got the Beholder art. I'm a big D&D fan as well, so look out for that in the future. But yep, thank you very much. The deck tech and the link to the deck are down below, and hit me up in the comments if you've got any suggestions. Thank you.